Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for our national anthem, performed this afternoon by Peter Griffin and his dirt bike.
Hey, this is Ryan Villapoto, and listen to DMXS Radio.
All right, guys, welcome back to the show, DMXS Radio. That was the silky voice of Daniel Blair once again bringing us into the show. Welcome back. Thank our sponsors real quick and make this possible. Racer X, the great folks there at MX Sports, W Wheels, OGO, Concept 2 Rowers, and of course, Dunlop Tires, the best tires in the business, including the new Geomax factory spec tire, just like the pros. Available now. Check them out at Ride Dunlop. And now it's time for family. He's been on here 2 decades plus, and we welcome him back before the Anaheim One Breaker. Coming up here, Chad Reed. What's up, Reedy? You there, bud?
I'm here.
Okay, what's up, man? Welcome back to DMXS.
Oh,
it's
everything's happened. Everything and nothing. It seems like it's that time of year.
It is. We're freezing our asses up in Atlanta, and you guys are about to get a cold snap down there in Florida too.
Well, cold snap seems like maybe like 30s in the night and 50s in the day. And if that's my cold snap for the year,
Yeah.
I'm good with it.
Yeah. What is your minimum temperature to ride when you're like, nope, it's too cold?
Well, prior to going to JGR,
North Carolina, yeah.
Anything in the 40s, I'm like, yeah, it's a bit cold.
Yeah.
And again, let's be honest, I grew up in Australia and lived most of my life in Florida. So
Yeah.
I am very much a hotter climate, put me near the beach
Yeah.
kind of guy. But definitely my 4 years in Charlotte, I had to, I'm trying to think like the coldest, like I want to say that we rode one of the days, like it was like 28 degrees or something like that. And it's, you know what's funny? Everyone's like, the colder it is, it's just drier and it's actually doesn't feel as cold. And I agree, but your fingers freeze up much, much quicker when it's just that kind of weather. So I learned the trick. Yeah, I had to wear rubber gloves under my under my moto gloves, and I could get about 5 more laps. So it was brutal though, gnarly.
That's interesting because I like for me 40 anything below 40, and once your fingers get cold, and fourth gear at 40 is cold. I mean that's just a lot of air whipping through you. So, but so what do you guys? What temperature are you expecting down there?
Honestly, I only really looked because I'd heard everyone talking about it, but I mean, it looks kind of like mid to high 50s. Honestly.
Oh, okay. So it's not you're good, far enough south, so you're not going to get messed up. Yeah.
We must be just. I mean, we're in like obviously the Tampa area, so we're kind of central Florida, but I don't know. We'll see. Like it's. Today it wasn't supposed to rain and it rained, and so who knows? It might be freezing and brutal.
Yeah, but hey, before we get anything, can we just talk about Tate's injury comeback and podium at Melbourne at Offset SX? I mean, that video was
it was really
amazing.
Cool. It was fun. Yeah, he, I mean, just totally opposite spectrums of emotions, right? Like he came in, he was the most prepared that I've ever seen him. He was riding awesome. Like I was so proud of him, to the point where it kind of scared me a little bit, and I had to manage things that I hadn't had to manage before.
Yeah.
You know, and do I think that that's what really, you know, where it led? I don't, but I also know that it was a challenge. It was going to be a challenging day anyway, just because we were going to deal with things that we hadn't dealt with, you know, like we hadn't been the fastest before, let alone 2 seconds faster before. He was just riding at a whole new level. And the scary thing was he was doing it pretty comfortably and like looked really smooth. And there was a real bummer to see him get hurt, but then for him to kind of have, you know, Ellie and I had a little bit of I mean, let me tell you, when you spend a lot of money on, you know, going to Australia, renting a house for, you know, 8 weeks and all that, you know, you take a film down. It's like, it's not just a small moving, you know, pieces of the puzzle. It's like, it's a pretty moving, you know, a big moving, you know, lots of weeks spent doing it. And so we kind of had at that point, we were all pretty deflated and we're like, okay, what do we do? Do we just, you know, pack up and go home, or
cut our losses?
Do we try to make the most of it and enjoy Australia, enjoy the location on the beach, you know, go and see our families, and kind of made that call that he, you know, Ellie and I gave him the options. I'm like, look, bro, I said, right now you have broken ribs. I said, that will be the determining factor of like whether you race again or not, you know, in this series. I said, I think the collarbone, I don't want to downplay, you know, play broken bones, but I think for the most part, your broken collarbone, you know, in a couple of weeks, you'll be fine. Yeah. It's just going to be where the ribs are at. And I said, but if you're willing to, you know, sit still and go through it and, you know, do what your mother and I tell you to do, then I think you'd be okay. And 4 weeks in, we rode and he kind of came out swinging. And I going back to what I just said, where he was at another level and he needed, you know, he just needed to kind of be a little bit smoother. And I think he wanted to just get back out there so bad. And oh my God, I mean, for a kid that came back from a broken collarbone and 6 broken ribs, I mean, he threw himself on the ground 3 times, pretty good. And I said, bro, we have got it. Like, this is not okay. Dad, like, I'm not okay with this. I said, at this point, like, I get it. Your body's good. Like, you've tried it out 3 times now. Yeah. Anyway, and then for him to come from that and then, you know, then smooth himself out, get confidence back in a good way, get his head back on his shoulders in a good way, and then just rode really, really good. Like you know, the way the series went is it went a weekend off in a race. And so we raced in Adelaide, and it was basically he was only 4 weeks post, you know, 6 ribs and a collarbone. And it was just a really rough weekend. I can honestly tell you, I don't know as a dad that I've experienced such just like not scared, I guess, but, you know, like I always want to say scared because it's an easy word, but like
concerned.
I wasn't scared, but I was really concerned, you know, like it was something that, you know, like I guess the best way to put it is, my perspective is I knew everything he was doing and feeling, and I knew like what you're supposed to do, not do. And he was just doing everything that you could possibly do wrong. Yeah. And I was just so concerned and nervous, that it was like probably my single worst, you know, weekend. Ellie and I probably, you know, for the better part, lost a good couple of pounds that weekend because we didn't eat all weekend, just worried about him. And then we went back to the house and just kind of had big, long chats with him. And we had a new goal and a new plan. And he really executed all of that unbelievably well at the next one in Melbourne. And so, he, with a good start, I think he was good enough to win. But he just, you know, part of winning is getting a good start and putting yourself in good places. And so anyway, a really proud moment for
That's awesome.
For us. And a good way for him to sign off on his mini bike career too. You know, like that was probably, you know, like he didn't, you know, we didn't really get a whole lot of trophies and for good things, you know, like we were in the learning phase and And so for him to end off of his mini bike career with a legit full blown Supercross, podium in front of, 43,000 people.
That is awesome.
Pretty damn special.
And this is what was so weird when you watch that video. He's tall now, so when they have that shot from behind and he's walking like through the tunnel or whatever underneath, that looks like freaking you. I'm like, he's not that almost looked like they had patched in some of your footage. I'm like, that's Chad.
No, and it's crazy because like he, like kind of like just what can happen in 8 weeks blows my mind. We even when you go back, like I just recently watched we did for our YouTube, we did a 24 year in review,
right?
And even leading up to the series, like how you look at those videos and his size and how he looked on the bike, he grew 2 inches. He grew 2 inches and put on 12 pounds while we were in Australia in 8 weeks.
Yeah, he looked like it. He looked like a mini.
And I'm just
that's crazy.
like Ellie and I were like, I really hadn't made a big plan for 25 because I was like on the fence. I'm like, are we at the point where maybe we race some races in 25 at the beginning? Maybe we do the first here they do the first 5 weeks and it's the winter series down here in Florida. Maybe I just let him ride a super mini and he kind of gets some good results and then we can transition to a 125 and onto the 250. And dude, and he just leapfrogged everything to the point where I'm like, right as you start making a plan, that plan kind of just gets thrown out. Yeah.
It's like Adam Cincerillo. He just all of a sudden grew and he looked ridiculous on a super mini because he grew so fast. It's like he was a tiny little kid his whole career. And then all of a sudden he's a giant on a super mini.
I would say Adam's a good reference because Adam, that typical, just like you said, scrawny little skinny kid, and Tate's kind of on the shorter side always and like real skinny. And then it's kind of like he started shooting up around, Loretta's and you're like, wow, he kind of really shot up. But then it's like, you kind of thought, okay, well then maybe that's the shoot up that we got.
Yeah.
And then maybe it's something else. And wow, he did a whole nother level of it, after that.
Well, thank God KTM has a 125. I don't know what you guys are doing for bikes, but at least he's got a good 125 stepping stone because I can't imagine, putting a kid, on a 250F at that, for the jump.
I hate to break it to you, but no, we're not.
We're
not. Well, I wouldn't rule it out, but I don't know that I'm going to waste my time on a 125, to be honest.
Okay, well, hey, that's...
We do not have one at the house. We had one, and I don't know. I don't know that that's it, So we actually, Where have you been? Have you not been following me on social? We got 4 motorcycles. I drove to Atlanta all the way up by you.
Yes,
I got a Honda,
I was just going to talk about. I was just going to talk about
a Yamaha and a KTM 250, and we've been riding them all. And still at this point, go ahead.
No, I was going to say that brought back all the memories watching you on all the different OEMs coming through on your track. That to me, with the bike shootout, I can't wait for all the results for that stuff. But I'm just saying with the jump up, I still like a stepping stone of a 125. I don't know, point and shoot, whether it's all style and all that stuff. But when we go to 250F, there's no going back. That's it. That thing can bite back hard.
Yeah, but who wants to go back anyway? My answer to you would be the whole system and the whole sport is so broken on the fact that, I think 12, 13, 14-year-olds should be mandatorily riding 125s and get rid of the super mini.
Yeah.
And, anyway, that's
a different argument. I understand.
Conversation, yeah. But I just believe, for me, doing it a second time around and seeing how everybody does it here, like these kids, like I look at Tate, and Tate's really on the small side compared to his competition.
Right.
And the fact that we're jumping straight to it, and it's like these kids they're ginormous. Like most of every super mini kid at Loretta's, I stand eye to eye with them. They're all 130, 40 pounds almost. Yeah. And I'm like, it just blows my mind. And then they go, at that point, you're so big and you're so, heavy that why would you waste your time on a 125? I really wish the 125 got utilized at a much earlier stage.
Right, as opposed to the Super Mini being the step. I mean, and that's an argument for that as well. I mean, there's definitely, because that Super Mini is the frame size never gets any bigger, so you can do whatever you want with it. But the kids still look like giants, a monkey riding a basketball when they get done with it. So I agree with you that a 125 would be a logical step as opposed to being 2 more years on a mini bike.
Yes. Yeah, I agree.
Well, so here's the problem, like, the whole thing with the kids and the 250s. I remember, when this all happened, there really wasn't a stepping stone. Then OEMs quit making them, and thank goodness, some still do. But that's still one of my favorite classes to watch at every local race. I announce Ricky's race at Daytona every year, and I just love the 125. I think they kids still have to learn about momentum, and it's just a different. Do you think that holds them back on a 125? From the 250 as far as riding style and roll and torque and all those things? It's just wasted energy on an old platform.
Oh, I think that there's probably ways that you could justify it. I feel like I would just be justifying what I'm doing.
Either way, right?
I don't think that there's a right or a wrong. I'm not a big believer of like a one size fits all. I really believe that, what's best for you and your family as an individually. I think that you just got to do the best thing. And, for me as the dad that's been there and done it, and what I see and the platform that is the 125, I don't know that we're going to waste our time with it. It's the wrong thing to say. I shouldn't say waste my time with it. It's more, I just don't know that I need my kid to do that step. Like when I look at the big picture, I feel like there's more to gain in the 250 class than there is. And again, there's more classes, there's more opportunities to race. The bike's easier to maintain and ride. 125s, there's not a lot of classes. It's really, I don't know, it's all over the place. Again, I believe the system's broken more than the bike side of it. I wish that there was a better platform, and it needs to start earlier. But that's all I would say.
Watching Tate ride the big bikes and all that stuff. What did you notice? Like, watching the video, it's not super long, and it's not, what did you notice right away when he gets on one, as far as good and bad, pros and cons?
Well, Tate as an individual, Tate rides very much in favor of, how to ride a 250F. So basically like how I would like him to ride a 250F.
Okay.
Tate has a more natural riding style, that complements a 4-stroke. And so probably that plays into my, some of my reasoning of why teach him to do something that is so short-lived when he has a very natural, instincts and his ability to ride a 4-stroke. And that's, let's be honest, like that's the future for him. That's what he needs to be good on a 4-stroke, not a 2-stroke. So yeah, that's probably what I see as him being able to ride and do things. Again, when I let him ride all the different platforms and the different bikes, there's certain bikes that I watch him and I'm like, wow, it's, like the Yamaha, for instance. The Yamaha is a really friendly bike, I think, to little people, newbies, and I think it just has a big operating window. I think the KTM platform is awesome, but it's a bigger bike, I think,
Okay.
I don't know if it just physically looks bigger. Like when I ride it, it's not like I go, oh, wow, this bike feels bigger. Actually, truthfully, all of them, when I ride them, it doesn't necessarily feel like one's bigger than the other. I would say that the Yamaha does feel a little bit on the smaller side compared to all the rest, but I would say the rest of them are all more in the window. And so that would be, one thing that I see for him is like he gets on a Yamaha and I immediately see that he has the ability to ride it better and easier.
Okay, good.
When he rides the KTM, it's not that he rides it bad, or a Honda or a Cowie. It's just the bike looks like it's more bike for him, So it's interesting how it all work.
Yeah, watching the video, back to back, and obviously you're in the footage and he's in the footage. It's all that. It's just you see the size difference immediately, and you think I immediately think he's not big enough. It's one of those things where you have to. But like you said, with him growing, I mean, by the time the spring races come around, I mean, he could this could be right in his wheelhouse size wise.
Yeah, and again, I guess probably I need to use that. That to my advantage of having the luxury of being able to, be who I am and kind of see things more down the road than making a decision. I mean, think about it. Most families make a decision today based on what they're going to do in August. And sure. I'm just like, dude, the teenage kid that I see, like in 8 weeks, he grew 2 inches and put on 12 pounds. I'm like, how do you make a plan for August? Yeah. And again, Loretta Lynn's the most amazing event I've ever been to in my life. One of, by far the best amateur event I've ever been to. And probably in my top 10 most, just the way it ran and very efficiently. Cool. And just as a race, it was very good, but just, my only thing I've always had an issue with is just, God, it sucks that the system and how you get there, and I understand it all, but just simply saying how early in advance you have to prepare for it, but yet it's so far down the road and so many things change before you get there. And that's probably the biggest thing that I hate about the event, but outside of that, it's unbelievable. Yeah,
it's a 9-month, 12-month plan to, like you said, to prepare,
really
qualify.
I mean, like we're already looking at, area qualifiers and things like that, and it's like it's January 6th.
The new year, champagne's already just got done popping, and you're thinking about the August Loretta Lynn's and Hurricane Mills, Tennessee.
Yeah, and on both sides of the spectrum, it makes it challenging, right? Like here I am on the opposite side where. I have a kid that's probably not quite ready for those races, but yet I feel in August we will be.
Yeah, exactly. And
where if you go the other way and I'm like, okay, well, maybe I'll just squeeze the lemon and leave him on a super mini or put him on a 125.
Yeah.
But then I feel like I'd be at the other end of it when we come August.
Yeah.
So it's a challenge, and I have a lot of respect for these amateur mom and dads that try to cook up the best solution for them, because there really isn't a perfect way. It's just what fits you and what you can provide your kid. And
especially in that pivotal move up year, you only get that one time. I mean, other than all 50s and 60s, but that's totally. Speaking of moms and dads, it's when you talked about being Tate's dad, like that's what you're known as. A lot of things make me feel old sometimes, but when I'm like, you're Reedy, you're Chad Reed. Our generation you're not Tate's dad, you're Chad Reed. I mean, it's like, I still can't wrap my head around you, being Tate's dad, the mechanic, all that stuff at the races, when to us, you were one of the best 3 riders in the world for your entire career.
Putting, the reality of your kid being a big bike rider now is like, is a big wow moment. You're like, like my friends and people that I've been around for many, many years, I name one, Jim Perry, and it's like, I talked to, Jimmy texts me and, we'll talking back and forth right around Christmas and New Year. And he's just like, dude, he's like, Tate is on a big bike. He's like, are we serious? Yeah. And it's unbelievable. Same as Lars, I was talking with Lars and he's just like, dude, I can't believe that we're even talking 250F right now. Like, like, why are you talking 250F with me?
That is, and Lars, you talk about the memories when I saw you on all those different color bikes. I just thinking the 22 Motorsports and Lars and the red red outfits on the track walk. I mean, I literally went down like a miniature little, every time you hop on a different color bike, I'm like, that really was a different, phase of your chapter of your life. And that was definitely neat. But, I was watching Tate sign stuff and he's got to work on his signature. You have a great signature and Tate's got to do some kind of cool thing with his signature on all the posters.
Oh my God. He's terrible.
It's just prints it.
Yeah. But he's just like capital. It's like I did that when I was 10, 11 and I'm like, bro, come on, you got to step it up. Yeah. It's pretty funny. Right. And then, and his sister's super clever and badass at it. Typical, woman. Yeah. and he's terrible. And I'm like, you're good with that? Yeah. And I'm like, oh my God.
Okay.
you gotta work on that.
You definitely do.
So it is.
Well,
See, that's what I did when I was at see, he doesn't go to real school, and so he gets away with it. But like that's all I did. Like I swear, like my whole high school, the only 3 years I went there, and I only went. In Australia it's different. It's 7, 8, and 9 is all I did, but it goes 7 through 12 is high school in Australia. So 7, 8, and 9. So the 3 years that I was in high school, it's all I would do is just sit there and just scribble my signature just over and over and over and over. I actually kind of wish I had a book, one of my textbooks, because I think it'd be hilarious to just see the evolution of the.
So you sat in high school knowing you were going to be a world famous motocross, supercross star, and you were working on your signature.
Yeah, that's all I knew I was going to do is race dirt bikes.
Dude,
I was going to.
awesome.
Everyone told me I couldn't, and I was like, "No, I got this. I'm going to America."
That is talk about realizing your dreams and making them happen. You're in high school and you were practicing your signature to put on OEM posters for the rest of your life. That's amazing.
That's all I did, just sign. So just like everywhere, I didn't listen. I couldn't wait to bell to go to move to the next place, and then the bell to go, and then I got to go home and ride my dirt bike. That was literally it.
That is awesome. Ricky once told me that he does his every single one identical because he doesn't want forgeries and all that stuff. Can you tell yours like right away? Like, is there any differences in yours over the years, or it's pretty much the same, and a forgery or a flaw?
Yeah. Like if somebody like had one. I could immediately tell it wasn't my signature.
Cool. Okay.
And then, and mine really hasn't wavered too much. Like it's pretty close. Like I know what mine looks like throughout the 20 years that I did it, or 20 plus years that I did it. So yeah, I mean, if anyone ever come through and showed me something, I'd be like, that's not mine. I did not sign that.
Yeah, you paid.
And truthfully, you get a lot of them actually.
Yeah, on eBay, like a lot of people forge. Doing all that stuff and trying to make money off of forged signatures. Hell yeah.
Yeah. All
right. Well, Anaheim 1's coming up, and you just posted that epic picture of you and RC. And I think 21 years ago, you went back to back at A1. I mean, this is, we're going back and at your epic prime and how cool that was. And one of the things that always stood out to me, no matter what time I interviewed you in your career, you always loved the grind, the absolute off-season grind, getting ready for Anaheim 1.
Yeah, it's funny, a lot of people have been chiming in, and it's always fun because sadly enough, you don't really get to, I'm so busy, and, I think that everyone kind of just sticks to their thing, and I don't get to do this stuff as much as what you do, but it seems like this year there's been a lot of people asking, certain things and whatnot. And so I love this part of it, I was texting with Chase a little bit, and I just was telling him, I'm like, bro, embrace this. I'm like, let me tell you, it goes by fast, and everything you feel right now, good and bad, you're going to miss it at some point. So enjoy it. Find a way to enjoy it, and I do. I miss that grind. I miss the crazy of Anaheim 1. There's just
the unknowns.
Nothing, there's just nothing like Anaheim. I don't know why, and I'm sure that it's just the beginning of a series, but for as long as I've been here, Anaheim 1 has always been the first race. And so you just always, I guess the new series is really always Anaheim. And I think that, California always has a unique, different feel to it anyway. But yeah, it is. It's a special time, and I feel like there's no in between. You're either like, let's go, or you're like, oh man, it's just something missing. There's never, I don't know. There's been maybe a couple of times that you're kind of just, you're ready to go, but you're kind of knowing that there's more to come or whatever. 11 would be one of those years where, obviously a little bit older in my career, it was when we started Tucci Motorsports, and it was I was really ready to go, but I also knew that I was ready, but I was there was more, there was more with the bike. There was more things that we as a team were going to get better. And so like that year was unique, but yeah, like for the most part, you're just, let's get this thing going.
And what about Instagram stories? All this, I mean, there's so much unknown back in your day. I mean, it literally was, you had no idea until you showed up at Anaheim 1. Now there's everybody's time, stopwatches. Everybody has all these times and stuff. All this information leaks out. But back then it was truly the biggest mystery of the season. How prepared are you showing up at Anaheim 1 with your new team, new bike, or whatever that is? It was always the mystery.
I would say the biggest thing and the reason why is, think about it. I mean, James had a super tight group around him and he was hidden in Haines City and, same for me, like anything that was good or bad always stayed within the circle. And, and so we did that. And then Ricky essentially was the creator of that system. And so you kind of knew, but you didn't know, like there were certain molds here and there and you could kind of rely on certain people. And so you kind of,
okay.
I feel like you always had a finger on the pulse on, what was happening or where things were at, but it was definitely much more the unknown, like now everybody rides together and, if there's one crash at a facility, it's like wildfire. It gets out so fast, a bike breaks or anything like that. It just, like things are not as contained anymore. Even the test tracks, like even when we were in California, you seemed like it was less private, but even in California, like you could keep things quiet still, where now the way it is and all the teams and riders and trainers kind of riding together and the facilities and the way it is, that it is a really different, it's a different time for sure. You can't, like I remember, when was it, going into the 2007 season, New Year's Eve, I had a bike lock up on the face of the finish line and, went out had a big, basically all I did is I woke up, I woke up on the berm after the finish line and was like, it's fun. Well, not funny, but crazy that I remember going and hitting the face and all I remember is like just the bike locking up. I don't remember hitting the ground or anything, but yeah, anyway, I broke my sternum and my scapula, and knocked myself out. And so then I skipped press conference, which was, normally a big no-no and a big alarm. So then everyone's like, oh, he's hurt, something's wrong. Anyway, I was obviously hurt and whatever, but I still didn't miss the podium. And that, like what was that, 10 days later, I was on the podium with a broken scapular and
I remember
knocked myself out. It was crazy. So.
Tomac is the only one that gets away with. I know he's in Florida now with Star, getting ready for the testing, whatever. But he gets to stay out in Cortez, Colorado, and just be that guy where he's still that little bit of an enigma from the old school. Yeah,
and I guess that's what you love about him, right? Like he's kind of the last of the dying breed, the system that he beats to and, him and his dad and everybody like, it's cool. I like it that it's still possible to do it, like I think, it's crazy that no one's really come along and just got that old school mentality,
After all these years, what are you excited for Anaheim 1? Like what are you like? All right, here we go.
For me, you hear everything, right? Like, I mean, again, I don't necessarily follow it all along on social or anything like that. I have my, your people here, there, and everywhere that you talk to that has real information. And, and it sounds like, on the red side, it doesn't seem that everything's smooth and as good as it should be or could be. It sounds like Chase was really off at this point last year, but then I've heard nothing but good things. And then again, that's not anything to do with the conversation I had with him, but just, things that I hear on the, from everybody else. And it seems like he's hit the ground running and, seems better this year than last. Eli's back to, normal Eli. And I think, I'm just excited for the the unknown, you know, like right now it's all talk, right? So, you know, no one's dominated yet. Do I think that there's an individual that can have the possibility of doing it? Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
But I guess as a racer, I look forward to, how would you say it? Like, I look forward to the talk that you hear, and and I know some of it's real because of the conversations I have with people. And it's like, how do they deal with that, right? Like, how do they, do they get it turned around? Even though everything's not perfect, the gate will drop every Saturday night. And it's like, it's who does that the best? And that's your champion. And there's no ways to shy from that. And so that's what I look forward to. I think, Jet's really, really, really good. And I think there's a lot of pressure, on him. He's still really young. He's only 21, I think.
21. Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of pressure on him internally and externally. And, how does he deal with that? Does he just, it's all part of it and he deals with it good? Does he not? This whole Deegan thing, Australia, all these things, like, does that, I'm interested more maybe like just the little things away from the racing. I think the racing, they're all really good and they're really clever, but it would be hard for me to put money on anyone other than Jet, just because I think he has more tools in the box than anyone else. But I also know that not everything, runs perfect and smoothly at IM1. And so how does he deal with all that?
When you see Jet ride, let's say everybody gets a clean start, the top 4 or 5 guys all get clean starts. With what you see, can anybody beat Jet straight up speed without a bad start or anything like that? Speed wise, straight up, can anybody match Jet Lawrence on a Supercross track?
See, when I think of it, like when I think of Jet, it's like speed never really. Again, you have to be fast to win, right? And so I know he's fast, but for me, it's more than speed. It's how Jet produces speed differently than everybody else. He's clearly, obviously fast, but his ability to get good starts has been always a strength. And then his ability to manage the race, go fast when you need to, eat roost when you need to. And he always seems to put himself in good places, by race ends. And so that's what I think of when I think of Jet. It's more, that's his strength, is just his ability to just get it done. Outside of the mud.
As I said, yeah.
We haven't seen a whole lot of anything that he can't do yet. So I think he's able to, if there's a section on the track, he's able to do it and figure it out during a race. If there's a sand section that's challenging, he's able to extract pace and speed out of it that no one else can. Those are the things that I think of as Jet. I don't ever think, oh, wow, he's so fast. Clearly he's fast, but just it's the ability to pick it apart and take it section by section and make the most of it. Who's
going to have the best season of the old men? We got Webb and Tomac. I think Webb's 29, going to be 30. Tomac's past that. Who's going to have the better season of the old dudes?
I would lean towards, Eli being the guy that is the true old guy. It's so funny. You think, I think Eli's, I know. 32.
I'm going to throw up. I'm going to throw up even saying that. It's like,
I think he's 32. Yeah. I think maybe Barsha's got to be around that same age, right? I believe.
Yeah.
I think Anderson also similar age, and Kenny, I think 29, 30.
He'll be 30.
And so I would probably, when I think of older guys, at least when I look at the group, for me, it's probably Bam and Eli. They're the older guys. And they excite me for different reasons. I think that, not Bam's biggest fan, to be honest, but I think what I really respect, and again, I don't know this, I don't have any personal connections with Justin, but if he made the call to go and work with Alden, I think that we might see a rejuvenated and a pretty feisty, Justin Barcia, just because I think that, I don't drink the Kool-Aid of, Aldon Baker's the answer to championships. But the numbers don't lie. I think that if you go there at the right time and you use him for his skills and you listen, and it seems like if you buy into that program, the results don't lie that you do damn pretty good. And so I'm excited to see, Bam, and see if, it seems like the KTM group in general has, there's less talk about, oh, they're struggling with this or they're struggling with that. It seems that things have smoothened out on the Supercross riding side of it. Obviously got other issues outside of that. But
yeah, I was going to say some big ones, but that's another thing.
Yeah, but that doesn't really affect internal, going racing for those guys. I think that those guys are a long way down the road for, 2025 Supercross. And then Eli, I said this in another podcast, and I would say it again. It's what excites me about Eli scares me about Eli. Eli, when I watched him in November through World Supercross, he was really good. His sprint speed, his ability to pick apart the track, and
finished hard, finished strong, yes.
Just looked really, really, really good. And so that really excites me. But the fact that what really scares me is that was in November. There's a big gap from November to January, and I think that him being older and his dad, being quite clever, I hope that they've managed to, find a way to maintain that, not keep going, and then you come into Anaheim at the wrong side of that.
Yep, not peaking.
So that's really it. That's, again, I haven't had any of those official conversations and how he is, but he really impressed me during World Supercross. I was like, wow, that's cool. Like we've got Eli back. And I just hope that he's been able to figure out a way to, keep building and maintain that strengths that he had then.
And Coop looked good in Paris. He led some. He pressured Jed a little bit. I mean, I know that's not like a full-fledged endorsement.
Yeah, I didn't see Coop in Paris because we were racing in Australia. But I did get the moto the only moto that he did in Australia. He was it was a very Cooper Webb win. He was never threatened. He got out front. Everybody got bad starts, and he just, typical Coop. I mean, like second, third lap, he was like what seemed like a half a lap ahead of everybody.
Yeah.
So, did he? Was that his max? Probably not. And he just really controlled it, and he was never threatened for that win. So, and he looked really good. Like watching him, he looked pretty solid. Even talking to him, he seemed like he was in a good place. I did not get to talk to him post event, and so I don't really know. I lie. Actually, I saw him at the airport. We were on separate flights, but we landed in LAX at the same time.
Yeah.
And truthfully speaking, my wife walked him to the medical thing, unit, and so I thought there was something really wrong with him. And then he was like, "Oh yeah, no, I just got whiplash." I don't necessarily buy that was it, but when I saw him at the airport, he looked good. He looked fine. He wasn't in a cast or strapped up or
neck brace.
It was really surprising to me that that he went off to the medical and he really favored his side, and I was like, damn, I was really worried that he was hurt, but he seems like he was pretty lucky, and hopefully he was able to get back on the bike and keep that riding and build going, because Coop's a guy that you want firing on all cylinders, because he can really add some flavor to a championship, and and again, he's one of the older guys that will always just keep coming back. He's like that little chihuahua,
No doubt. And my favorite rider to watch this year, just for the ceiling and surprise factor, it's going to be Hunter. I think that is going to be second year on the 450, and the success he had last year, leading point going into the late in the season. I think he might be a fun to watch and get on the box a bunch and shake this up and people want to make sure that they remember him.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at Ozzy, I can only really speak of that just because I was at the event, and he was able to wrap that up and win that one. And like you said, it's interesting. Second years are different. Like they're good and bad. you go in knowing what it's going to take, and sometimes that's good and bad. Sometimes it's you come in naive and you just take it on, and the next year you're like, okay, I got to do this and whatever. But truthfully speaking, I mean, his brother is the number one on his bike, and so he knows he has a great reference point, and so, like you said, I think he'll be tough to beat just because of the fact that he is the best referenced and sees the best reference on a daily basis.
Well, I be remiss if I didn't bring up the obvious motocross destinations, and thinking back of the history of your country and all the great riders that have come from them, and you helped being the point of the spear for generations to come. What was that like? What was that nation pride feeling for you?
I don't have a good answer for you, to be honest.
Tell me, and that's what we're doing here. The nations kind of burnt me pretty good in 2019. I remember.
And truthfully, I'm not a big fan. Nothing to do with the boys or the riders, just the federation and the way it all went. I'm Team USA, to be honest.
So you're gonna take that grudge to the grave. You're not gonna ever forget they slighted you.
Yeah, I mean, like, again, I did a lot for Australia. I continue to do a lot for Australia, but they burned me hard. They did me dirty. So, yeah, maybe forgive and forget, but
you're Team USA forget. All the way.
Yeah, and so again, I mean, I'd be lying to say that I wasn't, proud or it was cool for the boys to get a win.
Yeah.
Super rad that Australia, not little, but country with a little population, can take it on. But with saying that, I think that, and again, I can't say this without getting beat up at some point. Someone will make a comment and it is what it is. But like, for me, I look at the total result, and you have to be the best team on the day. And that's what Aussie did, and they did a great job. But, it was a good day for them to do what they did, because I've never seen such poor results on everyone else's side,
for the throwaways,
like I've never seen France crash out of it, USA crash, just everyone had big numbers. I mean, it had to have been some of the bigger numbers that the nations has ever produced.
Right.
And so anyway, I don't want to comment too much on it because I'll just dig myself a hole, but it is, I was really proud of him, but yeah, Australia, Motorcycling Australia, some people within the team did me dirty.
Well, I can tell you this. You have the balls to say that. There's a lot of people that would just swallow that and just and pretend. I love that you're just
why pretend? I mean, everybody's like, again, it's funny because everyone wants me to comment, and it's like, I get it why they want me to comment, but then I'm like, it's not like every American past champion talks good or bad about the nations. It's not like everyone gets on there and congratulates them when they win. It's just, they're expected to win, right?
Right.
And so I don't know. It's always funny that a lot of people are all like, and again, they all think it's all something to do with Hunter and Jet, and it has zero to do with Hunter and Jet.
You're fans of those guys. You always have been. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
So, anyway, it is what it is.
Can anybody hang with Deegan on the West Coast?
Well, I was about to say no, but then
that was a long pause.
I think Eli. I think
Faulkner, Joe, Levi. I mean, can somebody?
Levi is who I was going to say. I was going to say Eli, but it's Levi.
Yeah.
I really believe Levi is. I wouldn't underestimate him. I think he's on a great team, great bike. He's on a great program. He works with my old trainer. So I trust that he's, as good or better than Hayden in as far as being in shape. I man, as much as I really, want to jump on and say, yeah, I'd be surprised that anyone could take it to Hayden because he has been really, really good. But I don't know. There's something about Levi that wouldn't let me do that. But with saying that, if Levi hole shots, I really genuinely think that he can run away with it and win. But I haven't been very impressed with Levi outside of a hole shot. Like, if you look at any race that he doesn't hole shot, it's not always great. So
yeah.
But then I would say, like, his stats of hole shotting, his win to hole shot ratio has to be really high, because every time he hole shot, man, he's really good. He's gone.
What about Juju? You like Juju? I mean, I know he's young.
Juju's really clever. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he's young and works with Davey, and Davey's been there and done it for a long time, and
sure.
He's done it the good ways, the bad ways, and so I think that he's probably some pretty good information. He's, again, on a good bike, good team. Juju's another one. He's really clever on Supercross, so it is. I don't. It's clever and as good as Hayden is. I think it's just that typical Anaheim 1 where you don't, I wouldn't give a trophy to anyone yet. Like I think that we need to see. See the races in the gate drop.
I know everybody says everybody's flying in the off season, but Jordan Smith's getting some good buzz on that Triumph too, and they've got some history back on their star racing and that semi or heat race.
Oh yeah, last year. And again, Jordan's proven time and time again that he's been in many different title fights. He's one of the older guys, more mature, and kind of understands what he needs. And maybe he's at that point in life where, this move to Triumph, and if the bike's good and the team's good, that all could gel, and suddenly you see the best you've ever seen Jordan. So, I don't believe Faulkner is racing West, right?
Yeah, he is.
He?
No, he is riding West. Yes, that's what I'm saying. And then he was leading.
I did not know that. Again, I would be. I really like Austin. I'm an Austin fan just because he was a kid, and he came and rode and did a lot of stuff as a kid, and so I've always really liked Austin. He's always been super cool to me. But the biggest question that you have with Austin is just the ability to stay off the ground and and just where he's at. But I do think that he's gone through a lot of hits and bumps, and even this latest thing with his head, and now with his wife being pregnant. I
that's
think
a lot.
I think it's a lot in a good way, in the fact that it's all really good timing for him to get a bit of a fresh new start. Just change the scenary. Around some different people. And while all that's happening, they're going to be new parents, and so I think there's a lot for him to fight for, to race for, and things, other distractions other than just your typical racing stuff. And I say that in a good way, like when, our sport kind of frowns upon, wives and kids. But for me, it was always a distraction that took away the BS side of moto, and it kind of just
that's interesting.
Distracted you enough of like being able to just do life things, and we live a pretty hectic, crazy life, and from little kids, and for me, the kids and Ellie and all that at one time kind of just, I don't know, like it always brought a perspective that I didn't have prior to it, and just different feelings, and put me in a different space, and I think that will be real positive for Austin.
That is awesome. And I'm going to, end this with this is, I had RJ on Hampshire a couple, 2 weeks ago, and we went really deep with his dad, and their complicated relationship, there at the end of that, and all the stuff that he struggled with. And he mentioned that, you reached out to him, because that's obviously you've been very, very forthright about that as well. And I thought that was very cool for you to be there for RJ.
Yeah, it was cool. I mean, again, not a similar situation, but a situation that you could relate to.
Yeah.
Just for me, obviously I was, we were worlds apart.
Literally.
but we didn't, literally, where we didn't, and sometimes I think that makes it easier just because we were
out of sight, out of mind. Yeah.
I think that sometimes having that disagreement or not having a perfect relationship, and then you have to see them or run into them, or at least know that they're in your, they're in your world, you're in your state, you're in your county.
Right.
And so I think sometimes that's harder to deal with than what I had to deal with with the worlds apart. But, it's not a nice feeling. And so, I reached out I think I was in Australia when I reached out, but it was nice.
And because you were going to write that book, and you basically, you were going to, vet all your demons and get, and all that stuff. And then you decided not to. And then you had some perspective being your own, being a dad yourself. And yours was a truly full circle moment with your dad, which I thought was, for all of us. Everybody has that. It's some stage or some point in their life. And, that's why I thought it was very cool and that meant a lot to him. I know that he told you that too, but he told the world that.
Oh, very cool. No, that's nice. Again, you never know. Like you always hear, like one person can make a difference and things like that. And RJ's a super rad kid, and not like super tight with him, or don't get to see him a whole lot, even though that we all kind of live here in the same little area. But no, he's always a guy that works hard and tries hard, and you see the path and some of those things. It's always nice to just, I don't know, felt the need at the time to reach out to him. So that was really cool that he felt like it was a nice thing to do.
Yeah, that was very, very cool. What advice, like if you see mini bike kids, and it was funny, I had Zach Osborne on, he was talking about, getting his kid into go-karts, and he said it's just as cutthroat, and the go-kart dads are just as big a dicks as motocross dads. But like if riders listening to that, and some people have reached out to me after RJ's interview, and they were like, that was, super deep, super honest. Like, what advice would you give somebody where you're around part of that child growing up, being that, every day? You're there with Tate right now. I know you've learned from your mistakes with your dad, but that's not easy to be everything all for your child, and then be there for their success of them turning pro, being whatever. And then all of a sudden, maybe not being needed, or not being, needed in the same way. That's a big adjustment.
Yeah. I don't know that I'm the right person to answer it, but I can only, give you my answer from my perspective of what I experienced from my dad. And then probably the difference between my dad and I would be that, like my dad, life was hard, like it wasn't easy to pay for things. And, and clearly I had a talent that he supported, at the highest level. And he always, I genuinely feel like he woke up to go to work so that he could pay for dirt bike stuff, and travel the country and do what we did. And, again, I don't want to make everything that he did seem like it's okay, because it's not. And, with him being gone, and like, I'm forever mad at him. Right. But with saying that, I have peace in the fact that, like, my childhood was one of the raddest, coolest childhoods that I ever had. And for me, it was I seen and respected what he did for me as a dad. And so he had that stress, right? Just always, like, I always felt like we were on the borderline of being able to put food on the table, but yet we lived a great life, and, and none of that was kind of ever talked about. But there was continuous arguments amongst my mom and dad just because, and it was always motor related. Mm-hmm. And so, like, we don't have that problem in our house. Tate's very fortunate. I did what I did in the same industry, and so I have, many, many contacts, many, people support us and look after us because of what I did. And so we have our own challenges that are completely different than what we had as, my family growing up. I think the biggest challenges for us will be, sometimes you got to let them do their own things, and let them make their own mistakes. And sometimes when you've been there and done it, and you can see it from afar of what's happening and how it's happening. And sometimes you want to, stop it from happening. And I don't know that I can't not stop it from happening. Or should I say, I don't know that if I could see something, I don't know that I wouldn't try not to stop it.
Understood.
Like I don't know that I could. Just it's kind of like you let your kid fall over when they're learning to walk, and it's like it's just your instinct to save
Catch
them
them.
and make everything okay, right? And so I think that that'll be probably the biggest challenge for us if Tate continues to do and produce what he really wants to do, which is go pro supercross racing and take on Dad's records. Then I think that will be the biggest challenge. Will be just understanding that you've been there and done it, and for good and bad, and to allow him to kind of make his own little mistakes and do all those things.
and shelter him too. I mean, it's a different world than when you grew up and when Brian Deegan grew up and what his sons, I mean, the social media side, the exposure side. I mean, there's just lots of, you want them to be who they are, who they were always going to be, I guess is what I meant to say without the outside.
Yeah. You just try to be a good parent, right? Like you try to, I don't know how to say it, and it's a work in progress, I guess. But I guess Hayden is always a good reference because, he's their background and his family, like they're really probably the most similar of circumstances that we're probably going to deal with as far as the Deegan family already winning race, won a race in Supercross and things like that. Him being quite a popular kid and having a platform and all those things, all the things that Tate will probably deal with. And so, you watch and pay attention to the things that do it. But then, I would say that the hardest thing is, though you see all the little things, it's like the Deegans and us are, we're very friendly and we actually, see them quite often, but like we're very different as a family too. So, things that, that I wouldn't do, they do. Things that we would do, they probably wouldn't do. So we're unique in our own ways as well.
Did you make amends with your dad, like a true amends?
No, I didn't get to. Okay. Never really ever got that conversation with him, which would have been nice. Mm-hmm. But yeah, and even still, it's always a tough one. Obviously my mom and my mom's just certain things that she does, and you have to. The other day, I had to tell her something that she didn't want to hear, and but
it never ends, Chad. It never ends.
Yeah, and again, with the experience of Dad going, and you never know what's around the corner, right? Sure. And so I don't know. Mom probably wears more than she deserves just because
of the circumstances. Yeah.
You don't want. I don't want it to end. With her and I the way that my dad did, because it wasn't really like one-sided. Like it wasn't like I was, close with Mom and not Dad. Like I had beef with both.
Well, I can tell you this, and this isn't, I think I've told you this on and off the record is, I've known you since you were a kid, literally, coming to America and doing what you did. And I've watched you become a father. I've watched you, put your kids on the podium when they were babies and all that stuff. And I've watched the YouTube series and the patience that you have and what you're trying to do, what you and Elle are trying to do with this, with what it's just that love and that it's a dream. I mean, you just watch, people look at that and say, that's what I would love to do. Travel the country, and the dream you guys are trying to let your kids live out. And that experience is amazing. And, you were one of my heroes on a bike for sure, but I love what you're doing after the fact. And I'm glad that you're taking us on this journey with you, brother.
Yeah, thanks. It's a lot of fun. And, I've said it to you before, but like just, it's cool to do it again because I feel like you're so young and you're so naive and you just, I have millions of memories and data collected in the back of my head of everything. Yeah. You could relive every moment of every age almost. But it's really cool to see and probably even gain more respect for what I did and how you did it from just how hard the sport is. It's gnarly, like it's brutal, it's hard, it's repetitive, and it's, I don't know, it's kind of cool to see the work that it takes from the other side.
Yeah.
And again, I'm putting the work in with him, but it's really cool to see the effort, that it takes. There's no shortcuts. Like I know how to get there, but I don't know how to get there tomorrow, it's a process. And so that's what's probably cool for me, is just enjoying those moments and how hard sport is. It's gnarly.
Well, you and Ellie are doing just a great job. And, I've even made my wife, show my wife several of the clips, and just to see, cause we grew up with you too. And it's like my kids, they used to, well, my girl was, you were her favorite rider. So we, followed you around. I got a picture of you at Daytona holding a sandwich in your mouth as you sign my daughter something, whatever she gave you to sign. You were eating a sandwich, you took it, you held it in your mouth, and you stopped. And that's before you knew me like a legit person. That's who you were. I'm like, and I need to find that picture and show it to you. But so you've always been, the Reeds have always been a part of, DMXS and fans and well, so I want you to appreciate that. I want you to be able to look back and say, I was a badass. I did that. I'm going to take my son on this journey with me too. But it's just as important for you to realize, you're Tate's dad. You're doing this, but man, you were a bad man on a dirt bike.
Yeah, it's cool. And I think that you pass a lot of that stuff on, like a proud moment for Ellie and I would be, Tate got hurt on, it was a 2-day event. He got hurt on Saturday. They kept him in hospital overnight. Mm-hmm. And the unfortunate side of, business and racing is, yes, we were there racing with Tate, but, I was an ambassador of the event. And so Tate gets in an ambulance with Ellie and the 2 kids and I then had to fulfill, the rest of the night's obligations of, autograph signings and smiling to cameras and, opening ceremonies, watching the Supercross. And then I had a great time. I was able to kind of switch off as, a sad dad and kind of just enjoy and take on the event. The kids and I, drove home that night and, they kept Tate overnight in hospital. And so we drove the next morning. It was a Sunday race, obviously at the same facility. And so we picked up Tate, and then essentially we were going to drop me off at the track because I had to go be an ambassador. And then Ellie was going to, go on home. And we got there, and Tate's like, I want to go in. And so here he is, straight out of hospital, hadn't had a shower, nothing, awesome. Straight 6 broken ribs and a broken collarbone. And he walks in, and you just seen like he was in a lot of pain, but he dealt with it. I think he took it on heads on, and he was, looking at his bike, and then, a lot of kids then realized he was there, and, before you knew it, he was standing there in pain, signing autographs. That's a read. And that was cool. And I feel like sometimes that's a learned process. I think the amount of times that I've, unfortunately, actually, I've been pretty lucky, but for the most part, like the times that I did get hurt, like I always went to the events. Like I missed it, again, late in my career, I was able to, it was my team. And so, for the most part, you'd go and do stuff because of your team. But it was always, I don't know, I always missed it when I wasn't there,
Dude,
so I still miss it today.
Just up until the World Supercross, that picture of you with the sling. Dude, are you kidding me? I mean, Tate had his broken scapula podium moment. That dude, he's got your heart. I mean, that's the heart of a lion. You can't, like you said, you cannot teach that at a practice track. You found a lot about Tate's character right there.
Yeah, no, I did. Ellie and I both, acknowledged that a biggest part of Australian trip was seeing the heart that your kid has, and that makes you really proud as a dad. And so we'll be at a lot of races this year and years to come, hopefully.
Do you know what color bike you're riding in 2025? Like for real? Or is it all still up in the air?
Tate seems like Tate's narrowed it down to, continuing on a KTM or riding a Yamaha.
You say you like the Yamaha for the size and all that? Yeah.
I would say, I would go back to the comments that I told you earlier. The Yamaha is really friendly to smaller riders. I really believe that, like, Tate gets on it. He's faster on the Yamaha every time. There's something about it. He feels better and more comfortable. And so if I believe that Tate will race a Yamaha this year. But that doesn't really mean anything, like I don't have a manufacturer deal, so I can
go back.
I can continue to ride a KTM. I can get a Yamaha if I want one. So we'll see. I mean, it's always fun, and I'd be lying to say if I didn't bleed blue. I think that my most favorite years, both for Ellie and I, for different reasons, just Yamaha was good to us. We spent a lot of time there. I'm still, I believe, the current. I have the most wins for Yamaha ever. So I mean, it's
you still talk to Jim Perry. I mean, you still bleed blue. Yeah, there's no doubt.
Yeah. So and the company's changed a lot. It's a shame. Cyprus is a ghost town now. Now they're all in
Atlanta,
Georgia.
Yeah.
And most of the race team people that I dealt with are all kind of retired. They were all quite on the older side when I got there. And so that part's a little bit of a bummer. And, I always I always love going and seeing the older people, even Raj. I only got to work with Raj once, or Ian, one of the years, but it's always nice to go back and see the people that were around, week after week after week. They were your people you would always run into. And so it's a shame that some of the Yamaha people that are no longer there, because it would be cool.
Well, here's the fitting thing is that you were on them, and like you said, got the most wins in the OEM history, and then they sucked for forever, and now they're awesome again. It's it's the full circle moment of getting Tate back on a Yamaha.
And even just me taking a lap, spinning some laps on it, it's they've really found their old school strengths.
Cool.
Like you said, they went through a period where they struggled on the chassis side of it when they turned the cylinder around. And, but yeah, they seem to have, built a really nice bike that has what I would call just OG Yamaha DNA, just really nice bikes and good front end feel. So anyway, that seems, we haven't 100% made that decision, but just, maybe a little bit of breaking news. That's what I predict Tate will ride.
That's awesome. Well, we would all love to see the 2.2 on a blue bike. I mean, I think the world is rooting for that.
Yeah, there is a lot, and you see that, and I feel that as well. So,
did you ever tell Tate that you could only wear blue and white gear? Have you ever told him how hard it was being cool back in your day?
It was pretty lucky. I also all these kids that wear colored gear, they should thank me. It's funny.
You were the rebel, dude. You said this is fucked up. I need to express myself.
Yeah. I had an army fighting with me too. I remember going to try to make that. Again, I was really fortunate that I was the champion, negotiating a new contract.
Yeah, good credentials.
But yeah, again, I only got it 50% of the time.
I know.
And, first and last race, I wasn't. So if you look, most likely, a lot of the Yamaha guys still wear, blue and white at first race and last race. I kind of see that they still do that a little bit. It's not as clear as what it used to be, but I think that for the most part, if you look, you'll see, the guys are wearing blue and white at first and last races of the series. But yeah, I was only allowed 50% of the time, but then first and last race, I had to wear blue and white.
Wow. So for people who don't know what we're talking about, they basically, the gear manufacturer made Chad wear certain colors the whole year. And you did not like that. You wanted to, be more independent. And so you had to go fight for that contract time.
And still to this day, blue and white, or white and blue, as we used to say it, you're okay, you can wear white and blue or blue and white.
One's predominant.
And that was it.
God.
And I'm okay, awesome. And I still to this day, it's my favorite color. I love it. And anytime I wear it, it feels even more special than it ever did. But wow, wearing it every weekend and trying to be creative and try to be have fun with that was really painful. And so, yeah, I fought really hard to get some colored gear.
You know what? Thinking back, I think a lot of your epic pictures, they're all blue and white gear. or white and blue gear.
Yeah,
So I mean,
they are.
Okay.
All my greatest memories ever are all in white and blue. Even some of my wins on other brands, I had blue and white on.
Yeah,
still,
I'm thinking back.
I always liked it. It's funny. Everyone thought I hated the blue and white, and it was like, no, I actually loved it. Still, like if I had to pick a color for this weekend, I would wear white and blue, even on any other brand. But it was just, for whatever reason, I just hated. Well, let's be honest. I hated being told what to do.
I was just going to say, it all boils down to that. If that wasn't in your contract, you probably would have worn blue and white and blue all year anyway. So that's funny.
Yeah.
Totally. Hey, I'll tell you what, Reeds looked good in neon yellow too. So that was that looked good in Melbourne for Tate. Hey, we'll give you the Dunlop 5 questions to get you out of here. Dunlop Tires, the best in the business. Make sure you check them out at Ride Dunlop. All right, what was your first car, Chad Reed? Like in Australia, like what did you own as your own car?
My first car was a Toyota Hiace. It's a van. They didn't have them here in the U.S.
Okay.
But, my first pro contract was for $5,000.
Yeah.
And my first car was $5,000. So I literally, I spent my salary on a car.
Good for you. What was the fastest car you've ever owned? You've had some nice ones.
Yeah.
I'm leased or whatever.
It's funny. I'm not really a car guy, to be honest. Like I like cars, but I like other people's cars. Like I don't, like if you told me, hey, you can pick 3 cars. I'm like, I don't even know that I could tell you. Like my favorite car is a race car. Like get in a race car and go and do real things. And like the Lamborghini thing, I didn't own it, but I mean, when I did the Lamborghini series, like that was so fun, racing, and I won the world championship in Spain. But as far as like what was the fastest car that I've personally owned?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't even know.
Do you have like an Aston Martin or a
I really haven't had anything too crazy. Like even when you look back, like most cars I had that were cool, they were all like they were free. Like
lease or freebie. Yeah, loan outs. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. All right. So that would be my answer: is the best car is a free car. Like all these people that spend
wasting all their money,
$500,000 on a car, like it blows my mind. Yeah.
All right.
Again, like the people at Mountain Motorsport, like that's what they do. They have such a crazy car collection, but they're really smart at it. Everything they buy is worth more than what, when
I've
they
seen
sell
that.
it or whatever. But anyway.
Yeah, those are investments.
So I'm not much of a car guy.
Okay. Did you ever talk to anybody on the starting line? Like when you were on the starting line, was it just like a men's bathroom with urinals? You just no eye contact, no talking?
Depends on who I was starting next to. Like there was, like if I started next to James, I would always try to talk to him because he hated talking.
Oh.
And so you just make small talk with him, and you could just tell that he didn't really want to talk to you.
Head games.
Wyndham was always funny, like Wyndham and I, but then he was such a bubbly guy. He's always, whatever, but like he'd always try to be, you could tell that he was trying to get serious and try to not be the bubbly guy,
Okay,
So then you'd talk to him all bubbly on the line and it seemed like it was always funny. But yeah, so I would say that I enjoyed talking on the line, but it was more based on who it was and how, if they wanted to talk, then I probably wouldn't talk to them.
Did you ever say a word to RC? Did you ever line up to RC and say anything to him?
I don't remember ever doing anything like that. Like I don't know. I wasn't that guy. And, the era that I raced, like those were bad dudes that you tried not to piss them off.
That's funny. That's the best part. Yeah. You don't want to intentionally piss them off.
You try to do the rest. You try to defuse them, not wind them up.
That is awesome. All right. Who was the first autograph you remember asking for as a kid?
Oh, geez, I don't know.
You had to have asked. I mean, that's what kids do. You're working on your own signature. That was important to you.
Yeah, but I didn't ask for autographs for some reason. Like I wasn't that kid. Like like for instance, like I remember going to, like I was at Anaheim 1 in 1999, and I was going to race, but I hurt my thumb the week before. And so I sat that one out and I raced the next week in San Diego.
Okay.
And I, 16-year-old kid walking around the pits. And I just remember I was always a visual guy. Like I just enjoyed, You know, like even when I was a pro racer, like one of my favorite things to do was to watch people ride at the test track. I loved, like, I hate that the test tracks are kind of dead now. Like it used to be one of the coolest things when you could go sit on the hill.
That was the hub.
And see all the, you know, all the factory riders riding and whatever. And I just like to watch. And I remember being at Anaheim 1. I wasn't even really a big, you know, I was a big Jeremy guy. But I respected and liked, you know, Emig, but I was obviously a McGrath guy. And so I always rooted for him. And I just remember seeing Jeff, and I believe 99 was one of the years that he was really bad.
Yeah.
And I remember just looking at him, and he had his shirt off. He was skinnier than I ever thought he was. And he was taller than I thought he was. But he just, like, I just kind of stood outside the tent, not close to the tent where, like, he would, but just kind of like a little bit of afar, like off of the fence, 10 feet off the fence of the, you know, the tent, the semi tent. And I just kind of just took notice. I watched him. I kind of took on that he wasn't happy, you know, just his mannerisms. It was weird. Like, you think of your 16-year-old kid, you'd be geeking out, but I don't know. I just took it on and watched it, and wasn't really an autograph guy.
Okay. Do you have any other riders' jerseys displayed, or do you ever like swap jerseys with anybody?
I don't. I wish I probably had more. I had some Jeremy stuff. I have a helmet of Jeremy. I have a jersey of Jeremy.
Cool.
I have some stuff from Valentino.
That's
so. Yeah, like more things, like probably like people that I looked up to, where I kind of wish I had have switched jerseys with James and Ricky in the good old days. I think that would have been kind of cool, or even switched a helmet once a year. That would have been fun. You know, I see a lot of the F1 guys do that these days. But no, I didn't really have a whole lot of. I mean, I have some jerseys, like my friends in racing and people that won, and like Langston and people like that. But not like I don't even know if I have a James or a Ricky jersey. You know, I'm almost positive I don't, which is kind of a bummer.
Yeah, because if you did, you probably would have burned it by now.
Probably would have burned it at the time. No, it is. It's funny. Like we'll have to. I have so much stuff from old years. So at one point, we all need to get together and try to do a swap from one of the older jerseys. Dude,
that would be an amazing. That would break the internet. If that's like the ultimate peace treaty for you guys in the sign of respect. How's Lewis going to do in a Ferrari? That was a shake-up.
It is a shake-up, and I mean they announced it this time last year, so it seems like an old news, right? But I think, when you look at the team, I mean, you know, car racing in general, it's hard to think that one driver makes a difference, you know, because as good as he is, he's been horrendous the last 3 years in a Mercedes. After all those years of success,
back to back.
I think that you're always at the mercy of the performance of the car, and I really do hope for the better good of, you know, the sport, and I think it'd be healthy for the sport that an older guy, and especially, you know, an older guy for one, but then also Ferrari at the front. I think it'd be nice if, you know, him going there, it's the same time that they get the car right and it's good. And, you know, I wouldn't say they were great last year, but they were, you know, they came on strong at the end of the year. So I hope that Ferrari has a good car for him.
What I love about you is you don't, you know, go on X very much or tweet or whatever, but when you do, it's about MotoGP. I just love that you're like, you just like,
it's changing a lot, unfortunately, but with all the wings and stuff, but they're going to go away here in a couple of years. But actually, they're not all going to go away, but they're going to minimize them a little bit.
They're ugly
but it
as
is.
hell.
It's like dirt bike racing, you know, like just there's nothing like motorcycles. Like motorcycles, even as good as, you know, some of those things are, like there's just something about it, you know. Like I'm really excited about MotoGP, like this year with Marquez going on a factory Ducati. I think that he's going to have, you know, the same equipment as Pecco, and it'll be interesting to see how, you know, Martin switches over to Aprilia and things like that. So I think there's a lot of changes in the MotoGP paddock this year, and, you know, I think that, you know, even with all their issues that they're having, and I hope that doesn't slow them down, but I really believe that, you know, KTM can, you know, come out really good, and you know, they've got you know 4 solid guys, you know, getting Bastianini and and those guys, I think, yeah, and I don't know. I'm excited for MotoGP. I can't wait, actually.
And Marquez, I mean, is that your guy? I know you like him, but is that your favorite rider?
He's my guy because he's my friend. Like outside of him being one of the best, if not the best ever.
Yeah.
And it's funny because it's like I would say that my two favorite and my really good close friends are Valentino and Mark. And I was, I sat at Valentino in VR46 in, when was that? 2000 and like 15 or 16.
Yeah.
God, we all rode the ranch. We all rode together and, eating lunch. And it was just like this little Marquez, little kid, just puppy-eyed looking up to his hero and hanging out. And so it was a real bummer and a real shame to see like them be so violent towards each other. But then brutal. I also respect that, because they're both the animals, right? They come from the animal kingdom and they're just out there to kill each other. And Valentino, was in the later end of his career, and everything he did, I think, was predictable. All things that I'd done for good or bad before. And anyway, so it wasn't surprising to see the way it was happening. And I really believe it was people around them that fueled it more than,
I'm sure,
than they individually did it, because I've lived that life. But yeah, Mark's a good dude. He's such a legit guy, and he's a good friend. And I just genuinely think he's a badass on a bike. And
he's never boring, Chad. Ever.
No, he's never boring. And even when you're around him, he's like that as a person. He's like again, very different than Pastrana, but like, Pastrana, you could think, oh wow, he's just so good and clever when all that is happening. But that's who Travis is, which makes it why he's so good at it, because it's natural.
Right. Not faking.
And it is. Mark's that guy. And he's old school. He's, when I go and talk to him and sit in his lounge, like I always ask, like, cause you want to know, like, where we at, like, what's happening, and he, like, you see everything, and he breaks it down with it, and tells you all the ins and outs of things that he ain't going to tell the average person. Nice. So it's nice to have a finger on the pulse and understand, cause I geek out on, on that side of, on our industry and that one too.
Well, dude, this has been a great one. Thanks for catching up and seeing Tate at Melbourne and the whole family, and from the bedside and brothers and sisters in tears to the podium at Melbourne. Dude, that was one of my favorite years of following Tate and seeing how big he is now, and that jersey, the 2-2. I mean, I'm just telling you that was just like a weird flashback. I'm like, oh my God, it's Chad. Like how is Chad's racing in Auburn, Australia? That's like, this is awesome. But it's always great to catch up with you. Always good to get your insight on Anaheim 1, and we'll see where the series goes. But man, good luck with everything. Thanks for catching up as always. 2 decades plus going with this dumbass show.
Yeah, no problem, man. And let's go racing. I'm excited. Actually, I'm considering jumping on a plane and going out and watching it in person. So
okay,
I'm excited. I'm excited for the year. I think it's gonna be fun.
If it's not a mutter, then head on out. I don't think it's gonna be. So that'll be a fun
maybe
one.
I need to check the weather before I book my flight.
No shit. Anaheim 1 in the rain is a cold, miserable day, as you know.
Any race in the rain is not, I'm going to sit at home and watch it on TV. I don't have any hiding places. I can go to all the semis, but for the most part, when it's raining, everyone else is in there and you're like, I'm good. I'll stay at home and watch it on TV. But thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Tell Ellie we said, hey, thanks, brother.
Cheers. Bye.
All right, there we go. Chad Reed. Man, it was as always fun catching up with Reedy. Some little nuggets in there. I like all that stuff. So if you guys have not checked out, Chad Reed's YouTube channel, following his family across the country, all 3 of his kids ride dirt bikes. Tate's getting really good. The whole Australian Supercross thing was neat, and him going from a mini bike now to a big bike, and it's all a progression. So normally we wouldn't see this. We wouldn't see this kind of hype until kids start winning titles at Loretta's, and then they start popping. So it's kind of cool to see the entire journey that these guys do, trying to get good at amateur motocross, which is not easy with the competition. So, all right, guys, thanks for listening. Thank our sponsors, RacerX, MX Sports, W Wheels, OGO and Concept 2 rowers, and then, of course, Dunlop tires. Check out that new Geo Max factory spec tire with custom rubber compound, optimized profile, and reinforced sidewalls. Available now. So check them out at Ride Dunlop. So, hey, and we did some pods. If you guys haven't caught up, we did switch servers. So I want to make sure that stuff is loading on your feeds. Jet Lawrence and Faulkner and RJ Hampshire, Villeman, those are all in there. So we appreciate you guys tuning in. And guess what? We're back when we're back.
This is Nick Way from DeWitt, and you're listening to DMXS Radio.
Kevin, when is the last time you dominated anything except for that tight perm you rocked in high school? Seriously, a perm, dude?
Yeah, I did have a perm. And don't judge me, David. Times were different. I'm not changing the subject at all, but our friends at Dunlop know all about dominating. Dunlop just captured their 10th year of Supercross championships. That's 10 straight years, a straight up decade of dominance from the best off-road tire in the universe, including Pluto, which, it's a planet, folks.
Hey, hashtag truth, brother, because I'm putting my fingers in there like a cool millennial. I'm cool. And they win a perfect 36 for 36 championships at Loretta Lynn's, which is the absolute amateur pinnacle for testing both rider and the machine.
Yeah, can you imagine having access to all the top pros for testing and development? Like, hey, Mr. Roxon, it's Mr. Dunlop on the phone here. We need your help testing the next generation of tires. Gee, that would be great. Danke Shane.
I didn't even know you spoke German,
yes,
dude.
I do.
Well played, amigo. I guess if our listeners just knew that we use Dunlop tires too, that would be enough. But I think we've made a great argument, Kevin, that this is the one and only tire you should be running.
Yeah, the top pros, amateurs, and DMXS Radio run Dunlop, and 9 out of 10 dentists recommend them too.
Cool.
So find the nearest Dunlop Pro dealer and get hooked up so you can hook up. And yes, I am copywriting that.
It's the